Hello, hello. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Writing to Write, where I used to give questionable writing advice through running metaphors, but have since switched over to hosting these productivity sprints as I work to finish my fourth novel in my Into the Void series. Lots of updates there. Also fun life updates. Let's see. Yesterday I drove to New Jersey, and my wife and I were at a wedding for one of our close childhood friends. So it was awesome to go up there, see them. It was a lovely, lovely wedding. Then we drove back. Oh boy, it was one hell of a storm last night. And let's see here. So currently I have a cover for the fourth novel. I'm reaching out to proofreaders to try and get something done. Looks like the timeline will be late October where I send something out to them, which means it'll probably be November, which means I'm pushing this book out early 2027 next year. Sorry, next year. So February or sometime around there. Meanwhile, I'll be working on the fifth novel. So I need to combine all of these lovely, lovely notes into a storyboard at some point, probably on here. But in the meantime, I will be working on more iterations of the fourth novel. So I'm currently in chapter 15. Sounds about right. Let me see where I left off. I know. I actually finished up with chapter 16. So yeah, I am up to chapter 16. Ooh, interesting. Richard, hey, thank you for joining in and chatting in from a hotel room. Awesome. Sounds like you are having a lot of fun on your trip. And Adriana, thank you could make it. Yeah, 2027 will be fun to do. Much more to my opinion. Yes and no. I feel like book 4, I could publish it now and it would be perfectly fine, but I really want to refine it more. So I'm going through the editing process again and again. I'm cycling through the novel, and I want to really make sure that it is one consistent. I don't know. There have been a few really small details that like 99% of the people wouldn't pick up, where I don't even know how to describe it. But I just made like a tiny change where if you misinterpret what I have written on the page, it would lead you thinking that there's an inconsistency. So I just changed the verbiage there. And yeah, so I'm going through again and just making like really minor tweaks here and there. So it's basically just me rereading the novel, which is a lot of fun. And also kind of procrastinating against starting book 5 because, oh boy, that is going to be a very tough one. I'm going to need to decide whether I'm going to decide. I kind of already decided, but I'm going to decide that the series can't finish in book 5. So I need to figure out how I'm going to get enough plot for book 6, where it's not just all one final conflict or this, that, and the other. And so I need to figure out how to work with book 5. And while I'm going through that, I want to try and come up with some of the plot elements, themes for book 6. So it's kind of a massive undertaking that I'm definitely procrastinating on. And yeah, there's always ways to improve our novels. Every time, I definitely haven't gone back and read Falling Through. I read it after it was published, and I did make some tweaks here and there. But the more often we read our novels, the more we're going to. Every time we read our novels, we're going to find something we want to change. So I'm trying to read it as much as I can before I publish it, and that way I can maybe read it once more and then we'll be good to go. Honestly, a lot of times when I'm reading the previous ones, I'm looking for a specific string to want to see if, like, physical characteristics, I want to make sure that they are consistent across all the novels. So I go back and do like string searches for certain character names and then physical characteristics of them. There's also spelling checks. I want to make sure that if I spell zigzag one way, like zig-zag versus having all one word, there are editors I've had who have different nuances and different preferences. So sometimes I make the change. Sometimes I have to review the previous books and make sure that the spellings are consistent. It's not 100%, so I definitely made mistakes here and there. And yes, Richard, or rather, no, Richard, we're not spelling it in the UK version of each of our words. Honor, color, no, bad. But yeah, so with that in mind, I am at a great point in the novel. Well, great point in terms of progression, but also great point in the novel where things are about to go to explosions. And so with that in mind, I'm going And welcome back. Thank you for joining me for the first sprint. Like I said, I finished up with chapter 16, so I'm right on schedule. There were a couple of moments that were touch and go, so there's an explanation that was a couple of sentences long that I couldn't, that conflicted with something that was later said. So it was like, I tried to do this thing, but it was giving me some issues. And then later on, they're like, well, I trust in my power, so I'm just going to, fully use them. And I felt that those lines don't technically conflict. By the way, I just scrapped the first part of it, so there were no complicated issues. So there was no complicated explanations, and the character just went ahead and did their own thing. And then later on, they're like, yeah, trust in my powers. I'm going to do what I want. So I think that tightens things up a little bit. I'm definitely over in words. So cutting out, 50 words is always ideal if they don't add anything to the story. And then there was another part where I added something in because one character says something and one character recognizes that they heard something, and then another character who has really good senses and really good hearing should also mirror that. And so I added in something there. So like building up of what I said before or in the introduction, where I have all these tiny little details that I like changing and moving things around. And obviously every time I edit this, I'm going to go and I'm not going to remember when I made these tiny little tweaks, but hopefully as I read through it the next time, I'll realize that I didn't screw anything up. That's the goal, at least. And yeah, that's how things are going there. So I wanted to explain a little bit of my process, why I go through this iteration so many times, because I've read the same sentences over and over again, but now that I'm reading them, I guess, faster, or I'm reading them in a different way, I'm catching tiny little details here and there. And this blogger, hey, welcome. What's everybody working on? How is your outline for your fiction, fantasy, and contemporary paranormal romance novel with Insula, forced proximity, and fated mate tropes using psychology? Cool. Glad that you're working on that outline. I will, once I finish the editing iterations and it's off to the proofreader, I'm going to start converting all of these into something that is useful. So there is that. And nice, you have 9 comments outstanding. Cool. Hopefully I'll be able to address them and work through them. And yeah, that's all I got. I guess we can jump right into sprint number 2 as I work on chapter 17. And I can do a nice little reveal. Chapter 17 is actually called Miscommunications. So take from that what you will. So it's chapter 17. There's 40 chapters in the book, but the last 15 of the last 20 are very, very shortened down. So I think I'm close to halfway in my book. But it might be like 45%. That sounds about right. And so after they get through this current struggle, things will be moving very, very quickly. So chapters like 20 through 35 just fly right by in terms of reading. In terms of editing, they go faster than like a 3,000 word chapter. But there's also a lot of important details going on, so I try and 15,000 words during the climax of the story takes longer than 15,000 words anywhere else in the story. That's just the way that I think, because I want to make sure that the moment is, that the emotions are there, that the plot has been building up to this point correctly, and I need a whole bunch of different considerations there. Anyways, we are going to get started on sprint number 2. And so I will see you all in 20 minutes as I work through chapter 17, but probably won't finish it. I'm done with the second sprint. I'm most of the way done with chapter 17, which means I could probably get started on chapter 18 and see how far I can get in there. I might be able to finish it. It seems like it's a short chapter, but I don't want to lose my place where I currently am to check the word count for chapter 18, but I will try and finish that in the third and final sprint. Also, today is the 3rd of the month, which means I sent out my newsletter. So if you haven't checked it out, you can get all the fun updates on my writing, on my life. I went to the beach this past month, so I sent out a few photos of donuts and fun shenanigans. There's also a tribute to my grandmother in there. We're in August now. Yeah, so last month, she unfortunately, my mother's mother unfortunately passed away, and so I did a little tribute to her and some of the ways that she taught me to love reading. Definitely one of the joys was going to her house and digging into the collection of books that she had. So I went more into it in the newsletter, and if any of that is interesting for you, please do check it out. There is a link in the description to sign up for my newsletter. I am not going to be able to get very quickly. So rather than waste your time, I'm just going to say, feel free to learn about me, my writing process, running, pictures of Boone. I tend to throw pictures up there. I got a whole bunch of good ones from recently, as he's a good goofball. He makes friends wherever he goes. So he's a good boy. And I throw pictures of him in there as much as I can. And obviously, who doesn't love dog photos? I know my Instagram and social media will be, I've actually catered it to not really send me any news because it's all depressing. So all it is just dog photos and dogs running up and down, or dogs showing people's work, dogs passing out in the street on a walk and refusing to move, dogs who walk by I don't know, a restaurant where they get pup cups and just refusing, and then just sitting right there and refusing to move. So there's a whole bunch of fun things in my social media feed, and I try to mirror that or channel that in my newsletter. And yes, donut photos. Fractured prune is fantastic. Anybody who lives in the northeastern or visits the northeastern seaboard, fractured prune is wonderful. They make their donuts fresh, and then they do various toppings for them. I've learned there are a couple of regional differences, say between Ocean City, Maryland and Ocean City, New Jersey. And I think it's really cool that they have such variety, and it's actually pretty cool. A carnival in Rehoboth, Ocean City area is honey glaze topped with rainbow sprinkles, whereas in Ocean City, New Jersey, a carnival is the vanilla glaze with rainbow sprinkles. I actually like the Ocean City, New Jersey one better, but I can always just ask for a vanilla glaze with rainbow sprinkles on a donut and not call it a carnival. Anyways, with that in mind, thank you for being here. I know I was off last week, and I appreciate you sticking through with all the burdens of work that keep me from hanging out and doing writing and all this other stuff. But at some point, I'm going to, get a Netflix deal and not have to show up for my 9 to 5, obviously. And that'd be great. Anyways, I'm here for my third and final sprint, so hopefully you will join me as I finish chapter 17 and hopefully chapter 18. So let's get started, and then I can do my goodbyes and go and get some dinner because I am hungry. But I'll see you all in 20. And thank you for joining me tonight. That was the third and final productivity sprint. I finished chapter 17. I started working on chapter 18. I made a few changes here and there, but I'm going to, sometime later this week, start from the beginning of that chapter and work all the way through to make sure that the changes I made work. So it was good that I made those changes, but I want to ensure that the little tweaks that I added in here and there make sense, they're consistent, and that they don't add in new issues. So with that in mind, I will pick things up from chapter 18 later. But yeah, thank you for joining me tonight, and I will see you all on Monday. I'm going to go enjoy my dinner, and I hope you have a wonderful start to your week. And yeah, that's all I got. It's going to be pretty relaxing, I think, on my side. Well, aside from work, but when we hang out with Booney, I'm going to take him to the park, and hopefully it doesn't get too hot out. But I will see you all next Monday night. Take care, and thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful, wonderful night and wonderful rest of your week. Bye now.